Hello. Welcome to Aurelia's Channel 18 News. I'm your host, Carly Jardine. Tonight's breaking news is something you do not want to miss. We will be talking about something that impacts up to 9.5% of youth with no identifiable cause. Some believe it's genetics, others think it is unstoppable. Tonight, we will be breaking down the myths of ADHD and giving you the truth behind attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So, what is ADHD? ADHD is a condition that impacts a person's ability to focus, can create impulse control issues, and hyperactive behavior. Generally, the disorder is diagnosed in childhood, but for some, symptoms can occur in adulthood. ADHD can be associated with poor academic, social, and/or work success. By the end of tonight's segment, you, our viewers, will be able to better understand ADHD and how it impacts our children, their learning environment, and their classmates.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Home Health Network. Today I've got Shannon here with us, and she's an educator. And as you can see, our studio's looking a little bit different today. We've got our classroom set up here. And what Shannon's going to do is she's going to take us through the classroom and tell us some ways that we can modify our classroom environment to help support students who are faced with ADHD. So Shannon, if you just kind of want to start us off here and tell us what are some things that we could do in this room to make it more accommodating for students with ADHD.
Well, thank you, Shrina. It's such a pleasure to be on your show this afternoon. We are going to be looking in the classroom today to see how we can benefit our ADHD students better. So we can start by looking at the physical classroom itself. As you can see, this is a closed concept, meaning there's 4 walls and a door. We also happen to have some windows that are accessible, but the awesome thing about them is that there's the blinds. So the children can either relax by looking outside, or we can close them if we find it's too much of a distraction for them. Another beneficiary thing that we have in the classroom is that we don't have a smart board or anything that's super interactive for the students throughout the school day. We do have the whiteboards and the projector, but it's currently not on, which is fabulous. Also, when we think of students at their desks, right? Yeah. So in this classroom, we actually have somewhat of an unideal situation. See, ADHD students benefit more when they are in a row-like pattern, so probably more individual desks in a row. Okay. They do best when they're also in the middle front of the classroom. That way they're more focused on what they're trying to learn, but that can be a little restricting for someone who has these tendencies to get distracted, right? Right. So another beneficial thing we can do as educators is having a free floating desk, which is what I've placed over there. Okay. So as you can see, it's close to the teacher's desk, and it's somewhat close to where the student will be working, but it helps because when they can't focus in their usual spot, this allows them to have somewhere to move where they're still going to know what they're supposed to focus on, and the teacher can kind of help them self-regulate if they kind of get off track. Awesome. Sounds like some good stuff we've got going on here. Yeah, and in terms of decorating your classroom, because I know that's something that teachers get very stressed out about. Our walls are looking a little bland in here. Yeah. But okay, so tell us some ways that we can put some stuff up on the wall maybe to kind of stimulate those kids with ADHD. Yeah, exactly. So what often happens is teachers will put a lot of stuff on the walls, which can be overstimulating. So what we're going to try to do is have very basic displays and then just have the more important bits highlighted, maybe in bright colors, and something such as classroom rules or basic things that they should know for every day, but things like projects and assignments, we don't need too much of a display. It's a little too much for them. Right. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that is all.
I'm here with Mr. Meter to talk about attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. He's going to tell us how teachers accommodate these exceptional learners in their classrooms. As we've already mentioned, Mr. Meter has just received the prestigious Teacher of the Year award for his work on inclusivity and has generously agreed to talk to us today about this fascinating area of education.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Happy to have you. So tell us, Mr. Meter, how do you accommodate exceptional learners who have difficulty paying attention in class?
Well, there are several different areas of accommodation that need to be addressed when a child has an ADHD diagnosis, including physical accommodations, academic accommodations, as well as behavioral accommodations.
Interesting. It is my understanding that literacy is extremely important for students with ADHD. Is that true? Why would that be?
Well, reading ability is related to math performance and behavioral difficulties because reading is related to everything we do in a literate society. And being able to read is an important aspect of a student's self-respect, self-esteem. Teachers need to provide additional support and focus on reading abilities as early as possible because if they can read and write, they are less likely to fall behind in general. There are two ways this can be addressed. One, teachers can accommodate these students by providing additional one-on-one time and support during literacy blocks. Or if the student has already fallen behind significantly, they can modify the curriculum expectations for that student.
Does that mean they would be following a separate program? Would they be in a specialized class?
No, they would typically remain in their regular classrooms, but yes, they would be following an individualized program.
So does that then mean that these children have intellectual deficits if they're not on the same programming?
No, quite the opposite. Often these students are very bright and capable of meeting curriculum expectations despite the considerable challenges they face staying on task. They often have difficulties with executive functions.
Executive functions. What is that?
Executive functioning or executive functions basically means how we organize and plan our thinking. It's our thinking about thinking, you could say.
Okay, so if someone has trouble organizing and planning their thoughts, wouldn't that make academic work very challenging?
Exactly. So there are several things that teachers can do to help. They can chunk work into smaller tasks, more manageable tasks. Provide visual references for instructions and expectations of behaviors like rules, schedule, just visual cues in general work really well. Limit the number of paper and pencil tasks. These require a lot of thought processing. If they have trouble with writing, this is an issue. Provide more opportunities to act out their learning, show their learning, or communicate their learning orally. These are good options. Consider the use of computers or word processors.
So what would you say?
Hello and welcome back. We are just about to go into the Timberwolves den to watch Sharina's pitch. Follow me. And here's Sharina walking in, looking confident and ready to take on the Timberwolves.
Yeah, what do you have for us today, honey?
Hello, Sharina.
Good afternoon, guys. Thanks for having me today.
Welcome.
Hi.
So what I've got for you guys today is a couple of assessment strategies to use with children with ADHD in the classroom. So I don't know if you've seen the news recently, but there's been a rise in the number of students diagnosed with ADHD every single year. So as an educator, we're looking for ways to accommodate them in mainstream classrooms. But with our accommodations, of course, we have to take into account some of the factors that they face on a day-to-day basis. So that includes they may misunderstand concepts. When reading, they could skip words, or when doing mathematical procedures, they can forget them entirely. So we have to try and find ways of assessing them that kind of helps their needs. So one way to do this is on tests, you want to make sure that the pages are nice and clean. You want to avoid cluttering words together. So things like multiple choice might be hard for them to do. So you want to maybe do a fill in the blank test instead. Also with that, when presenting material, it's important to kind of give guidelines and kind of model the steps so that they know exactly what's expected of them and they can see it visually. And also when developing assessment rubrics, you maybe want to join them in on that process. So have them kind of reiterate what the expectations of them are so you know that they know exactly what they're supposed to do and they can set their own goals. And then so for the tool that I have here to accommodate all those things is a portfolio that the student would keep throughout their educational experience. And it would include samples of their tests, assignments, maybe some of their work, as well as those goal setting and those assessments that they have helped create. And that way they have it in one specific location that they can look back on and see how they're progressing throughout the year. And we found that that has been a significant tool for them to use, as they can see visually where they need to go and what they need to do in order to succeed.
And this has worked?
In my classrooms, yes, this has worked, and I really do feel that once we integrate it throughout the province, I think that teachers will see a dramatic difference in their students with ADHD.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And welcome back. We are here to further discuss ADHD. For those of you who are new viewers, ADHD is a chronic disorder that impacts a person's brain, nervous system, and psychic emotional system. Children with ADHD may experience difficulties interacting with others and are known to have problems building and sustaining relationships. Although currently research does not show any identifiable causes, large family sizes, divorced parents, low socioeconomic status, and a serious stressful event are predictors of children developing ADHD. So, what can be done to prevent it?
Providing a quiet space with minimal distractions to accomplish work is key to helping kids with ADHD stay focused and complete their work.
Yeah, I can see how work completion would be an issue with these students. Would reduced workload and additional time also be helpful then?
Absolutely. These are strategies teachers commonly employ to accommodate students, and not just those with ADHD.
So are you saying that some of these strategies we've talked about will be helpful to the class in general? I mean, I assume if a student with ADHD is often unfocused, that would be distracting to the other students, making these solutions and strategies doubly beneficial.
Very much so. These are all strategies that can help all sorts of learners in all sorts of environments. We can also teach students how to manage their fidgeting in socially appropriate ways so that classmates and teachers are less distracted.
Socially appropriate ways of fidgeting. How would you do that?
They may have a squishable ball, like a stress ball, to manipulate while they're expected to be still. Maybe an elastic band stretched across the legs of their chair for kicking or jiggling in their seats. There are also these cushions that are textured on one side and slightly unbalanced so that they have something to focus on while they're expected to be still and listening.
That sounds great. I think I
Hello and welcome back to the Shopping Network. I'm your host Shannon, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to benefit students with ADHD in your classroom. We're going to introduce you to some tools and devices, as well as our showstopper for the day. So to start, we actually have the Daily 5 book, which I don't know if many of you educators have heard of before, but essentially it's using different time increments for 5 different topics or less, depending on your class, and extending the time of focus for your students. So you can start at the number, which is the age of the student, and increase it by a minute each week or each day, whichever your preference is, depending on the students. This is to help to regain their focus and to extend it over an extended period of time, similar to how you would assess a student with ADHD using time stoppers and self-regulating themselves. Another interesting book that we have for you today is the Minds Up curriculum, which includes meditation techniques as well as information about the brain for students. This helps students to refocus, whether they have ADHD or not, and it allows you to have tools and essential things that children should know but aren't necessarily according to the regular stream curriculum. Now today's showstopper is very exciting and very fun for students. It's the Go Noodle. So if many of you have seen it, or even if you haven't, Go Noodle is an online device used to have kids do physical activity on the spot in the classroom while pretending like they're playing a video game. So, for 3 easy payments of $19.99, we are offering you the subscription either for school or at home, depending on if you're an educator or a parent. And you can have that accessible through the Shopping Network website or if you call us toll free. In addition to our Go Noodle showstopper, we will be giving you a free gift, which some teachers or parents find beneficial for their students to help calm them down without having to think about it. It's an aromatizer. which you will see over here, which you add water and essential oils depending on the preference of what you're trying to have them focus on. But today we will be giving you also a free bottle of a mix that helps students focus. So this is something that's nice to have in a classroom if you don't have any sense allergies or allergies in general, and it allows them to refocus without having to think about it. Now, if you stay with us through the commercials into our next segment, we will reintroduce to you the showstopper again, and we will also teach you about our additional resources for
treatment that generally focuses on lessening the impacts to the child. Treatment starts with the diagnosis and then can move to behavioral therapy and medication. The medication for ADHD should not be feared as it is thought to be safe and effective. There are a few adverse side effects which do include headaches, stomach aches, mood changes, and heart rate changes. However, with doctor intervention, these effects can be monitored and minimized. If you or someone you may know is being negatively impacted by ADHD, contact your doctor and get them the help and assistance they may need. ADHD can be a controlling disorder, but it does not have to. Don't let your disorder control you and get the help you need. After this break, we will look into
I'm confused about the suggestion to incorporate physical activity into the daily routine. What do you mean by that? Are these kids running around the classroom? I can only imagine that this would be highly distracting, maybe even more so than their fidgeting.
Right, so this would be done in a very planned and structured way. What we are doing is providing an appropriate outlet for their physical needs.
That makes sense. So what would this structured activity look like?
There are many cool apps available for teachers to use in the classroom. One of my kids' favorite apps is called Go Noodle, where they dance along to different kinds of popular songs that are on right now with instructions. There are silly activities with rhymes that might have kids doing yoga poses, jumping jacks, shaking their booties, whatever. Just fun movement. They may do this between different blocks of learning with the whole class, not just the kids with ADHD.
Because everyone needs a mental break now and then.
Definitely, I do them too. It gets the blood flowing into your brains. That's what I tell the kids. There are other ways to provide these structured breaks too. If an individual student needs to move, they can be provided with a sensory break.
A sensory break. Is that like when teachers send kids out to run around the schoolyard 5 times? Do they still do that?
Not really. A sensory break is a quick, intense activity break. They might do 2 minutes of cardio activity, 2 minutes of heavy muscle work, and then maybe 2 minutes of calming activities like yoga. So they might do 20 jumping jacks, run on the spot for a few minutes, push-ups against the wall, moving a weighted ball around, and then do a little bit of deep breathing and yoga poses at the last. So 2 minutes for each segment.
I imagine they would be coached on how to do this beforehand.
Absolutely. Some classes have little decks of cards with different kinds of activities outlined on them that they would take out into the hallway and do on their own. Others just know the routine and they go out and have their little sensory break and come back when they're ready.
So they're typically out of class 6 minutes or so, and then they're back ready to learn. Would parents not be concerned with this loss of time?
They would be losing this time regardless because they aren't learning effectively if they're not focused. This is why taking advantage of physical activity blocks is so important for students with ADHD. Teachers with these students in their class will often request specific times for their physical education class so that they can schedule their literacy blocks right after or take advantage of recess in a similar manner. Teachers can get really creative with incorporating physical activities into their classrooms. I knew this one teacher who had a trampoline.
And that concludes tonight's segment on ADHD. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions about what we discussed, check out our website where all of our resources will be posted. Next week, we will be looking into cyberbullying and how it is affecting today's youth. I'm Carly Jardine, signing off for Aurelia's Channel 18 News. Good